Going back to Raqqa really quickly, more than 75% of Raqqa is cleared. How many ISIS fighters do you estimate are still in the city?
All right, Carla, I know that we had estimated between 400 and 800 ISIS fighters remain in Raqqa. And we're talking about a 4 square kilometer area that remains in the city. The ISIS fighters still hold the stadium and are still holding the National Hospital compound that they've turned into their headquarters and logistics location. But that is isolated. Those are the remaining areas where the focus needs to be, and the Syrian Democratic Forces are continuing to push and make progress every single day. There was quite a bit of progress that was made this last week as far as clearing these blocks. But there's no question about it that the remaining areas are multi-story level buildings, and we expect also that the majority of the fighters that remain are foreign fighters and hardcore fighters that will fight to the death.
And one follow-up, because you had mentioned that they're using civilians as hostages, what types of measures are the coalition using currently to ensure that the civilians will not get targeted as operations intensify for that last 25% of Raqqa?
Yes, Carla, and the thing is that just as we do with any of our strikes and any of our targeting, we will always take into account civilians and non-combatants. We know the tactics that ISIS has used because we've seen it already. We've seen it in Mosul, and some of the things that they do with traveling with groups of civilians to prevent from being struck, and then also the tactics of gathering and herding people into buildings, welding doors shut. So we are mindful of that. We're keeping an eye on this prior to making strikes. These are also, this is the final remaining area. There's a difference between deliberate strikes and dynamic strikes. So our ability to deliberately watch and look at a smaller area helps us recognize and know where those targets are, and when we can hit them with the right amount of the precision and the right type of munition to minimize any other damage in and around the targets that we want to hit, the legitimate military targets.
And I have one last follow-up while I'm thinking about it. Back in March, there was an airstrike in Raqqa that was contested. Human Rights Watch had said that it was a school and civilians were killed. I believe you guys had determined that there were not civilians, that was a building that was being used by ISIS. Human Rights Watch went in July and did some more investigations. Just to confirm, you guys still stand by no civilians were killed in that attack, correct?
That is correct, and if it's from the most recent report that came out, that was outside of Raqqa, and I believe it was a place called Mansoura. We did conclude, and through our investigations, that on, I think it was the July 7th civilian casualty report, we determined that there were no civilians present at the time of the strike as we conducted our investigation.